Today was a hell of a session. I am definitely on the nose when I'm thinking that I'm approaching my max on squats, overhead press. Deadlifts not so much right now just because I'm doing different variations, but it's definitely getting there. 275 was quite a bit of work. It wasn't that it wasn't doable. It was just that it was very, very exhausting. But that's good. Again, kind of like I was talking about on Thursday, that I can't get better if I'm not challenging myself in any way. But man, was this a challenge today. But it was good. The I felt at times that my depth wasn't quite there when I was doing the reps, but I think that might have just been a perception of how I was doing. Just because watching things right now, I'm moving pretty all right. I were at times where I felt stiff or kind of sluggish. I apparently was just kind of blowing through the reps without much of an issue, at least in terms of being able to get depth and get past them. One thing that I was really having to focus on was making sure I was properly activating the muscle groups when I got to the different parts of the squat. So getting down into the negative, stopping with the glutes and the hamstrings to catch the weight, and then pushing back up and using the quads to stabilize while focusing on using the glutes and the hamstrings and the quads, in tandem to move that up. It's not necessarily going to be all of those that you're looking to work when doing a squat, but being able to adequately visualize how you should be activating those going through is very important when you're getting to a working weight that's really challenging for you, that you can't necessarily just muscle up. And I'm no longer at a point to where I can just muscle the weight up and kind of get by with subpar techniques. So I really need to focus on what I'm doing. And hopefully this really helps me to where I'm no longer kind of cheating reps at times with lower weights because I can afford to. Moving forward with this, I'm still thinking pretty strongly that 285 will be the maximum amount that I can do on a 5x5 with squats, which is fine. It's not going to be the first exercise I've failed to hit the mark on with what I'm looking for month to month, but it's something that I just got to work on. So if I fail to 285 or it just feels kind of rough, I may redo it again for the last day, or I may try 290 and see what happens. If it's getting a little difficult during the set, I'll just put knee sleeves on and get it finished up. I'd prefer to do them raw, but I would rather try the weight out and get it done just to get some benefit out of it. Same kind of what I've ended up doing lately with the overhead press, especially today, where I end up push pressing most of the sets just because after the first one, it took almost everything out of me to be able to do that one set at 120. Coming into my last set here, this was definitely a fight to get through towards the end, and I can still feel my core activated with this. So a lot of strong stabilization work being done in these reps to be able to keep upright, or as upright as possible, which I did a pretty good job of it watching here. And this last rep, I remember taking a breath, going down, and then just giving a roar as I'm coming up that actually does show up on the audio, even with me lowering it down, just because I was really having to grind through that. So again, definitely approaching my max here. Moving on into overhead press. Again, it's this first set was doable, and much like I was considering on Tuesday, I think my limiting factor on these reps and these sets now is going to be the strength of my triceps. And I think that I need to add in some supplemental tricep work on Sundays just to help develop them a little bit more, just because what I'm doing right now isn't enough to really focus on them and get them to grow strength-wise where I need them to be to do these. And with this set, I believe I was able to get 3 reps, maybe 4. Yeah, 4 reps cleanly. And then I had to push press the 5th here just because I felt that if I were to try to push that one up, I was going to injure myself just by doing it strictly. So I push pressed that up. And I was giving myself 2 minutes rest between these first few sets. This third set, I believe I only got 2, maybe 3 reps in before I had to start push pressing just because I felt so exhausted And this is where I definitely switched over to 3 minutes rest just after the set because I could feel that I wasn't going to be able to accomplish much more. Part of me thought about saying, hey, I'm just going to go to however many reps I can do cleanly and just call that my set. But at the same time, I wanted to be able to get the reps in to say that I was able to get it overhead. I am going to redo these and do 120 again next Thursday. And thinking it over, now that I'm really kind of pushing my maximum on this, I might further scale down the progression of the weights in the overhead press. And so rather than starting next week, going up 10 pounds or 5 pounds or kind of however before my compared to my starting set, I might only go up at 2.5. So that way I'll be doing 117.5 and pushing that and pushing and pushing. And then just to try to get something over 115. Because I feel like my maximum 5x5 set, or being able to do 5 sets of 5, is somewhere around that 117. And if I can hit that and maybe get a set or two of 122.5 afterwards, that's at least something moving forward. And I can slowly push, 2.5 pounds per month and work these up, just because I'm now at a point to where this is going to start slowing down because I'm definitely approaching maximal weights. And honestly, if I were to get to a point to where I can hit it consistently and not really kind of push higher, I may ride a certain weight for a month, like 115 for an entire month, and just push and push and push until it gets more and more comfortable. So I'm going to play around with it and kind of see how it feels. I might add in some variation work with overhead press just to kind of change things up, because I'm definitely going to start hitting the wall sometime soon. With the deficit deadlifts, I have finally, and I mean finally, figured out the motion and the mechanics of this exercise. What I've determined, kind of going forward with this, is that when I'm setting up for the weight, I'm breaking the slack out of the weight as I'm starting, and you can see my hips rising a little bit, but then I lock my hips in place. And I believe my 5th rep on this set specifically really exemplifies what I'm looking for. But I lock the hips in place, and then I'm able to activate my glutes and hamstrings and pull the weight right there. So you can see where it stutters for a second before pulling further, because I'm able to really kind of activate them and get that motion and that proper activation. And on this rep right here, everything felt like it moved perfectly. And that is the no longer doing the sequential movement that I was going, where I was going hips up and activating legs, then going into hips, but an actual movement where I'm doing them at the exact same time. So it's a much better physiological understanding of it. And I was trying to really focus on getting that motion I was going through, and at least as a baseline, being able to lock my hips and go up, because I'm locking them at a position that's lower than my conventional deadlifts now. And it's feeling better. Now, this is only 250 pounds. It's well below what I was doing. You can see my smile there because I realized I finally figured it out. I've got it. This is much lower than what my working set for deadlifts would be right now at this time. If I were still doing conventionals, I'd be doing 305 and really kind of pushing that forward. But I finally kind of got the motion that I'm looking for. So right there, that is ideal. That is kind of what I'm looking for, to where I'm no longer in sequence with the movement. And that 4th rep right there, I felt that, and I thought I need to replicate this and internalize this as much as possible. And I was able to do it again. So I've finally figured it out. It took 6 weeks of working at this to be able to get the movement for the deficit deadlifts, but I've finally gotten it. So today, it was something of a workout. Like I mentioned at the beginning, again, I had difficulties going through the squats. I was able to finish them. Necessarily wasn't able to go through the overhead presses just because it's a very heavy weight for me now. But with these deficit deadlifts, I've finally, and I mean finally, figured it out. And I figured it out in a way that is actually the proper activation. My back is staying flat. My hips are properly activating. My glutes are firing. Everything is moving correctly now. So now I can really kind of focus on moving weight on these and pushing forward. So next week's going to be the final week before I deload. I don't know if I'm going to be able to finish every set every day, but I'm more than happy and willing to give it my best shot and find out what I can do.